Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Andrew Chi. I'm the editor of the Armed Conflict Database here at the IISS. Let me welcome you for all this afternoon for a conversation with Martin Fayulu. Martin Fayulu is a businessman and the leader of the Engagement for Citizenship and Development and coordinator of a coalition of political parties in the DRC. Previously, he worked as the ExxonMobil for over 20 years in several African countries, including the United States and in France. Martin Fayulu won his first elective office in 2006 when he was elected to Parliament. He served as a member of the lower chambers of Congolese Parliament for 2011 to 2018 and was previously a member of the Provisional Assembly of Kinshasa from 2006. During the 2018 presidential elections, Martin Fayulu stood as a candidate for the Lumaka coalition, a coalition of major opposition political parties. On the 30th of December, the legitimacy of the coalition, or the election results, was thrown in doubt when opposition candidate Felix Tshisekedi was announced as the winner, sparking claims of electoral misdeeds. Since then, there has been growing political uncertainty within the DRC. Today, Martin Fayulu will speak about his experience during the recent elections, security concerns within the DRC, and the future of DRC. This event will be on the record, so without further waiting, I'll hand the microphone over to Mr. Fayulu, who will open with a brief speech, and then we'll move on to a Q&A session at the end.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to be here before this audience. I'm grateful to the International Institute for Strategic Studies and to Dr. Andrew Chishi for welcoming me today and giving me the opportunity to share my experience of the electoral process in my country, as well as perspective for the future of Congo. Ladies and gentlemen, after 2 years of delays in the hope of a democratic transfer of power and real change, the Congolese people went to the polls to elect their new president and their national and the provincial members of parliament. They did so despite the debate over the electoral register that included 10 million fictitious voters and the illegal use of the voting machine because prohibited by the electoral law. On the night of the 9th to 10th of January, the Electoral Commission manufactured the result they published, cynically ignoring the sovereignty of the Congolese people. Those results were at odds with the choice expressed by the population for all three elections. This is presidential, national, and provincial legislative. The United Kingdom, in a letter to Mr. Tshisekedi, through Madame Baldwin, the Minister of State for the Department for International Development, expressed concerns saying this: at the reported discrepancies around the official result for the presidential election, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the British government for its principled stance on the matter. Ladies and gentlemen, what I just described should be of concern to all those who believe in a free and just world where people are in control of their destiny. The sheer nature of double standard at play currently for the Congo is a spite of our people's dignity. Today, amidst a deadly Ebola outbreak and a precarious social and security situation, at a time when the country needed real change and deep structural reforms, we have an appointed head of the state who got less than 17% of the vote and who has neither the parliamentary majority nor the control of the provinces. In other words, someone who will not be able to provide the solution to our population so desperately needs. But aside from internal dynamic, some traditional partners of the DRC have also failed the country by enabling the fraud. Speaking at the Council of Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C., Mr. Tshisekedi's tongue split and he revealed to the public that his sham election was brokered amidst seriously pushback from Europe and Africa. More troubling, in a move that should alert the American administration, among others, who believe in his intention to deliver on structural reforms and fight corruption. He casted doubt over the use of sanctions against executives from the Electoral Commission and went as far as calling the American position paradoxal. While Mr. Tshisekedi is touring the world, pushing for an anti-corruption agenda, it is imperative Democrats around the world remember that turning a blind eye on the reality of Mr. Tshisekedi theft undermines their ability to credibly advocate for democracy. Undoubtedly, Kabila set very low expectations for the Congolese presidency, but that should not be used as an excuse to hold Congo to lower standards. By taking a shortcut to the presidency, Mr. Tshisekedi showed contempt for the will of the people and the lack of respect to the rule of law. Also, because of the illegitimacy nature of his power, he will have to rule through patronage and use the classic toolkit of illegitimacy leader to keep power. Furthermore, the detail of his arrangement or deal with Kabila are unknown to the public. As a research institute, this provides you with a great case study. What room does he have to maneuver? The answer is none, unless he decided to govern by violating the Constitution, which he's already done. But by accepting Kabila's rigging of all the election, Tshisekedi effectively accepted to become a powerless president. In addition to tensions between the two allies, you will start seeing tension coming from the street. After the fraudulent result, you did not see mass street protests for a couple of very simple reasons. The first is that the Congolese people simply did not want to be assassinated by Mr. Kabila. Experts are failing to note the level of militarization of the country during the election process. Kabila himself started wearing military fatigue in a sign of defiance to the people. In addition to armed forces being present everywhere in major urban centers, it is also important to factor in the timing of the announcement of the result. In both instances, for provisional result and for the final result announcement, were made in the middle of the night. Finally, The act of selecting an opposition figure as the winner cooled down a lot of the immediate pressure. It is extremely important to consider the weight of that psychological shock that came from waking up to an opposition victor, a new face in power after 18 years. During my trip, many have told me that they equate this relative calm for acceptance. I told those people that they do not understand Congo's history. One, and second, they are failing to grasp all the current dynamics and nuances. Legitimacy issues are never just swept below the rug. History has showed us time and time again that it will always come back to bite us. This is the very reason why Mr. Tshisekedi and Mr. Kabila have such a hard time producing a government. They fear it could be a trigger event. The people have already expressed the anger. Recently, you have seen scenes of violence and even death after the announcement of senatorial election results. No later than last week, you have seen scenes in our provincial parliament where Kabila's majority took nearly all governorships. The honeymoon phase is quickly ending, and as is usual with against the belief that this is okay and will be allowed. As usual with anything cosmetic, it ultimately fades away and reveals what is under. I caution against the belief that this is okay and will be allowed to continue unchecked. Do not miscalculate the frustration of the Congolese people. Their enthusiasm for the election will be met only by their anger in the face of continuity. There is no precedent for what happened in DRC. For the Congolese people, it is difficult to accept such humiliation. Ladies and gentlemen, above and beyond what the DRC needs in order to move forward are strong institutions. To that extent, to the explanatory memorandum of our Constitution is clear. It says this, quote, since its independence on June 30th, 1960, the DRC has been confronted with recurring political crises, and one of the fundamental causes is the lack of legitimacy of its institution and its leaders. Today, in spite of lessons from history, some of DRC's closest partners have unfortunately chosen political expediency instead of respect for principles and moral rigors. Ladies and gentlemen, legitimate institution and the process underpin and protect through democracies. The way in which our electoral process was carried make it less likely democracy will ever take root. This is the reason why I'm restless in my challenge of the result. Because beyond my person, what's at stake here is our people believe in democracy as the only viable means to select its leaders. I recognize many are eager to move forward and turn a blind eye on what happened, or better yet, Some claim it's important to see the process as opposed to the event. I say it is important to take action to fix what did not work now. It is very important to identify what led us to where we are today and make sure necessary steps are implemented to avoid a repeat of the situation. We have to continue to fight for the truth of the ballot. For the truth of the ballot, what I'm proposing now is this: the creation of a high national council of institutional reform, which will implement key reforms in the following areas: the Electoral Commission, the Constitutional Court, the security services, the fight against corruption, and human rights issues. My coalition will take the lead to aid that institution, will lead the council, and will see through the implementation of those strategic reforms. This initiative, I believe, all those interested in true change in Democratic Republic of Congo can get behind. This is definitely not your classic power sharing. I have not interest for power just for the sake of power. What is important to me is to be able to look at my children in the eyes and tell them that I did my very best to give them a Congo that was better than the one I found. And I did it without compromising myself. What we need is to have that body and have 12 to 18 months time for us to make reforms. Mr. Tshisekedi can run for that time the country, and we run that body. We make reforms, and 12 or 18 months later, we call for another election, the all election, starting for the presidential to the provincial one. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fayulu, for that speech. I'd like to open it up to the floor. If anyone has any questions, if you could just start by introducing your name and your affiliation, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fayulu. I'm Eleanor Beaver. I'm a research analyst here at the IISS. So I completely appreciate your upset about the obvious irregularities in the election, but you mentioned your disappointment that the DRC's international partners hadn't done more. What would you have liked to have seen them done, and what do you not think that there would have been a substantial risk of causing violence by further international intervention of one form or another?
Yes, what was expected is for everybody to be principled, to say that democracy election is 50 plus 0.1, and the winner has to be the winner, not the one who didn't win. As I said, Tshisekedi got 16.93%. He cannot be the winner, whereas somebody was there and he had 62.11%, and this was clearly stated by everybody, including the Catholic Church, who was observers. And what I wanted to see is to say that, okay, you have done your business, but we cannot recognize you. We cannot recognize the result. The UK embassy were the sole institution, the Western institution, to observe the election. And the ambassador with his team, they were there. when they were writing the report for the result of the election, they have announced, the Electoral Commission announced the result for the provincial election. It was not due. The result for the provincial election was due 1 week after the president, was put in place. I think that is a bad experience and is a bad example for other African countries or other dictatorial countries.
Hello, Monsieur Fayulu. My name is Indigo Ellis, and I'm from Varus Maplecroft. I'm a political risk analyst working on Central and Southern Africa. So my question is to do with the private sector. How would you leverage the private sector investment in DRC to enable to introduce these reforms to the institutions that you're talking about? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Yeah, the private section, they cannot, invest freely, and because the risk is too much. Where you have a dictator dictating everything, when you come with your business, you bring the money, and they tell you that they want to be to have some share. When you do business, you have to have facilitating payment to do everything you want. Even if you want to go to ask for a visa, you have to pay facilitating payment. And the money you are paying is as a tax and is not helping for the country to build, a good environment. This is the problem. I don't see any businessman who said that I have to make my discount cash flow. This is my discount cash flow, is this. And then when you have the figure that you put in your economics, and then you cannot verify it when you are inside, the risk is too much. Even if you are risk averse, you are not risk averse. And then you don't know what will happen tomorrow. And if we have an extremely rich part of the country. If you go to Beni, to Butembo, how can someone go there invest today? If you go to Ituri, where you have everything there, how can one go and invest? I think the risk is too much. You need a good leadership. This is the prerequisite for this country. A good leadership, the guy who knows where to go to put in place the rule of law, and everybody has to take on that rule and then agree on this win-win. If you come to invest, you have to win, and the country has to win. If the procedure and the regulation is known by everybody, I think the private sector will come. And today in Congo, you don't have the strong companies. The company like ExxonMobil has left Congo, and maybe they left almost all Africa. They are only in upstream. In marketing, they have left, and the Shell is doing the same. The big companies, you don't have a serious American company in Congo today. And what? And then those companies there, we don't have transfer of technology, of knowledge. And what Congolese people will do? Go on just the basic business? No, we need something better for our children. Thank you.
Gentleman, and then gentleman next to him as well.
Thank you. Alessandro Mergogna, International SOS and Control Risk. My question is, what do you think of Felix Tshisekedi's decision to pull out security forces from mining sites over the last weeks? What do you think, how will this affect foreign direct investment within the country? Or will it impact, for example, the presence of private security forces compared to regular security forces?
Pull out, sorry, I didn't get
the redistribution, Felix Tshisekedi decision to pull out from mining site security forces.
Yeah, but all these are cosmetic decisions. You want to, we don't need those, measure that to tell people I'm doing this. We want a concrete measure. They pull out, and after that, Kabila has everything. Kabila will manage all provinces, all governors in those areas. There is people, okay? But if they pull out, yes, they have to pull out. Kabila put them there on purpose because they are going to do business. But you will have some other people who will come because there is no regulation, the rule of law is not there, and security is everywhere. What we need reform. We need, all the army, okay, the police, and there should be, the one working for the country, okay? We have to put things in place. That's what we said. In our program, the first thing is to get this country to be secure. Security is. I went when I was touring the country before writing my program. I went to North Kivu. I told them that, okay, it was in 2015. I told them, what do you want me to do tomorrow if I get the seat of the president? They told me, Mr. Fayulu, we know how to do everything, okay? We can do what it's necessary for us to live a better life. The only thing we want is the peace and security. I think we have to start with that. If they pull out, what will replace there? You have to do something.
Hi Martin, thank you for your talk. My name is Remy and I'm also with International SOS and Control Risks. I'm a risk analyst for Central and West Africa. My question is about wildlife conservation. As you know, Congo has some of the most unique and rare species, but also some of those species are critically endangered. And I wanted to know, on top of your agenda for institutions, democracy and human rights, how you would prioritize wildlife conservation, particularly in areas like the Virunga National Park and areas of northeastern Congo where some of your most rare species are living. So I'd be interested to know how you would factor that into your agenda if you someday lead the country.
Yeah, thank you very much. We, you know that we have almost 9 national parks, and we have to protect them. And in some of the park, there are some activities going on there. Mr. Kabila wanted to give some areas in some park like Virunga to drill oil, and which is totally unacceptable, because we can have more money than selling oil from those places if we preserve those parks, and we can have more money with tourism and other things. And we have a strong program to preserve all those parks. But again, the first thing is you have to have a country where you have check and balance. And you have to have a country where leaders understand those things. Why you have to protect the environment. And I think it's one of the values we have put 13 values in our chart, and one of them is the protection of the environment. I think that we need those protection, but I have a comprehensive program for that, and we cannot. We have to work with the world, where people need resources. We have to find the resources for them, so we can prevent the environment. Thank you.
I'm just going to quickly abuse my position as chair, if you don't mind, and ask 3 questions.
Okay.
The first is, I can do that. The first is, you spoke about a 12 to 18 month period for calling for elections after that. And I guess the first question is, wouldn't that further cause instability within DRC? The second is, now that you are here in the UK, obviously going around and doing these talks, what more should the UK government be doing to support, but also to assist DRC and its future. And the final question is mostly geared towards Felix Tshisekedi's current position. So, what happens in the first 100 days if people in DRC do not see anything concrete? What is the likely outcome of that?
Thank you. Yeah, the 12, 18 months will not have instability. Contrary to that, we will have stability because I have the support of Congolese people. Everywhere I'm going to, Congolese people are telling me, please, Mr. Fayulu, give us weapons because we want to fight Kabila. Because we know that Kabila is embedded in Tshisekedi. Tshisekedi just a mask, is Kabila puts his mask and Tshisekedi Kabila is there. If we agree on the solution I'm proposing, and the people will say, oh, thank you, because Tshisekedi will run there. Fayulu is with the Lamuka and the civil society. They are making reforms, and then will not wait 5 years, because during the 5 years, Kabila and Tshisekedi will maneuver to keep power at the end of the term. And now, I can speak to the Congolese people. Okay, this is not a power sharing. This is because we want the truth of the ballot. And the truth of the ballot, of the polls, we cannot get it because they have destroyed all evidences they had. And let us go, like Juan Guaido is asking in Venezuela, let's go for a new election. And then we'll be getting the truth of the polls. Now, the second question, what more the UK government should do? What I want the whole government in the world just to respect the will of Congolese and to continue to say that you guys, Congolese, went to the poll and they voted. I see also what is going on here in the UK about the Brexit. Why you are having problem of the Brexit? Because you had the referendum. The referendum was that the British people said that we want to get out the Europe. And now, why a country, I don't know, the US came and tell the UK government, please stay, do this and that. Why your politicians, they are not going and take the political decision? Because they respect the will of British. I think Congolese went to the poll, they decided. If you had something like one got 51% and another 49%, and then you are questioning the result, they say that Tshisekedi, the difference between Tshisekedi and myself, the figure they have fabricated was 686,000. Whereas in 4 areas, they didn't organize election. Those 4 areas, they had 1.3 million voters. And then there are my constituencies. Assuming that they had election there, and it's very important. We want to set the example. In the next 5 or 10 years, we'll be having more than 10 elections in Africa. And we don't want the other country to benchmark with Congo. Okay? Because they can do that, and nobody will say, because they say, when Congo did that, why? Unless people think that Congo has to be, balkanized, as some Congolese are saying, has to be destabilized. If this is the program, is the plan, and someone has to tell us. The last one, the first 100 days of Mr. Tshisekedi, if he does nothing, but you have to ask him that question. But what he is doing, he has already spent 17 days. He has already, if you take the term of 5 years, he has already spent 5% of the time just touring the world, going to look for legitimacy outside. And I think Tshisekedi doesn't have the mean for him to emancipate himself. He doesn't have a mean also to, I have to be frank with you, to manage a country like Congo is a complex country. And it's not a guy, if you don't have the ability, or every time you have inability to say no, they say yes, because Tshisekedi went there, Kabila told him that, okay, my brother, see, you didn't win the election. This is the result. He saw him the result. And but I'm ready to put you in place. Are you okay? Yes. Okay, now this is the deal you have to sign. And he signed it. And today, that's why 3 months later, you don't have a prime minister. And Kabila is playing a game. This is a real this is a game theory. Okay? Kabila is playing a game. You'll see at the time, Kabila will say, okay, I remove that guy, Yuma by the name, the head of Jacamine, our mining companies, and they'll remove, he puts just another puppet, but he will control the guy. And then everybody will say, oh yes, Tshisekedi won. Kabila and Tshisekedi, they will play the stop and go game. You know, they will continue to look for this unstable balance and to rule the country and, keep themselves alive.
I'll be certain to ask him that question when I do meet him, hopefully.
Good afternoon, I'm Fleur Berger from DRC. I have two questions for you, one looking at the past, the other at the future. The first one is, do you think there was too much focus on the presidential election and no one really looked at the legislative and provincial ones, and in that sense, the international community but also local actors in DRC made a mistake? And the second one, I would like to hear about the Lamuka coalition, so the cohesion of it. How do you see it's gonna evolve in the future? Do you think it could become something more than a coalition? And if there are elections as you want it to be in 12 to 18 months, how do you see the coalition being strong in these new elections?
Thank you. Yes, you're right. The international community focused on what they call the red line. Kabila has not to attend the election. He cannot come back again, as our constitution says that the presidential is elected by the population for a term of 5 years, renewal once, for a life. I'm adding for life. Our constitution is like in America. Barack Obama cannot come back again. Kabila cannot come and say that I want to be president. The constitution prohibits that one. But you're right, the international community, and we had meeting, Felix Tshisekedi with me, and the others, we were on the same side. We discussed with the all ambassador when they were saying that this is our red line. Myself, I told them, please, this is not, the red line cannot be Kabila because the constitution is prohibited him to come back again. But the red line is Kabila system. And now, Kabila knew that, and his strategists worked with him, and they fabricated the result, and they ignored the result from the legislative. And now, he is running the whole country because the constitution gives powers. The president is almost nothing there because Kabila has a dictator and they had a team. He detected many things. The powers lie on the parliament. If 2/3 of the parliament decide to remove the president from office, they will do so, and he has it. He has more than 2/3. The province, when you collect taxes, you have a right to retain 40%. And then you send 60% to the central government. And Kabila is having the whole Katanga region, all those mining regions. Kabila people will manage those regions. Even if you seize his fortune, because they are telling us that he has 18 or 22 billion US dollar. I don't know where he got the money. But even if you seize his fortune in the banks here, but Kabila has now the possibility to produce money through his governor. Kabila has businesses in Congo with the fake names. Kabila has businesses in some neighboring countries. And I think, yes, it was a mistake to really concentrate themselves, have a focus only in the presidential. That's why we are saying it's not only the presidential. I'm not advocating for myself, no. We're saying to all elections because Congolese people wanted the change and today they will not have that change. Lamuka coalition, yes, we were electoral coalition because Congolese people told us that you guys in the opposition, we want you to be one. Please do whatever you want, but give us one candidate. What we did. That's why the 60%, you can explain it. It's not because of Fayulu or something else. If it was not Fayulu, but another guy, with the coalition will have the same. Because the people thought that, the Congolese thought that, okay, we respected them. We did what they wanted, and that's why they came. Now, we met, all of us, the Lamuka, last month. We met and we said it was in Brussels, in Belgium, in March 23rd. We decided that we have to continue Lamuka and we have to transform Lamuka from an electoral coalition to a political platform. And then we will be having another meeting next week. We'll have a meeting on the 26th and the 27th this month, and to agree on that, to put structures and in the place. And the Lamuka is not one man or the 6 guys there. Lamuka is now a spirit from Congolese people. And those who will try to go against Lamuka, I'm sure that the Congolese people will reject them. Thank you.
We have a question here, and the gentleman at the back as well, and then that will be last two.
Thank you very much for allowing me a second one. Mr. Fayulu, could you tell me what you see as, you've talked a lot about the need for security sector reform and for the priority to be improving the security situation. What are the key steps that you would take in security sector reform? And specifically, how would you end the history of engagements between the armed forces and armed groups, especially in the East?
I'll just take the last question at the back and then... Okay. Same question, sir.
Sorry?
It's one question.
One question. The key step in security forces, this is... I think is I don't want to be really open to that because it's a sensitive matter. But today what the army we have many foreigners in that army. Kabila brought the people outside the country to help him, to control the country. I think the first step is to do what we call in French, états généraux. Go deeply, put everybody together and discuss about the situation of the army and the police and all security services. And then ask help we need head on that area. Try to negotiate another mandate with the UN for MONUSCO. It's very important. We have put in place that I don't want to say it here, but you have the guideline. We have to negotiate a mandate to see what, and also negotiate with some partners, some countries, okay, to see how can we secure the country, how can we avoid all these things coming, those rebels groups and so on, so forth. If I have my program here, there is a comprehensive, detailed program for the step to take for the security. But I think you have some guide there. Thank you.
Brilliant. So if there's no more questions, I'll bring the Q&A session to an end. I just would like to thank Martin Fayulu for his time for being here today, and for the audience for some engaging questions as well. The recording, which is currently will be edited, will be online hopefully sometime next week as well. So without further ado, could we just thank Mr. Fayulu for being here today?